Good evening, folks, and welcome back, all my listening friends, to Let's Talk Radio with Robert Vaughn and our co-host, Vero Majid. Today, we have a special guest who is from Cleveland, Ohio. He resides in Cleveland, Ohio. He's been over the world. He's been in the U.S. Navy. He's been traveling with a group. He produces music. He sings. He's a businessman. He's been an executive at IBM. He's done quite a bit. He's worked at the East End Neighborhood House and many, many more things. So it would take us all evening to go over his resume. Stephen Boyd has also performed at the United States Air Force Productions. He's done theatrical shows, concerts, and clubs. He graduated from Southwestern Christian College on a music scholarship and became student director and is a featured soloist with the SWCC International A Cappella Choir, who toured extensively domestically and was voted most talented by college classmates 2 years during his undergraduate school. He's also a successful businessman and believes in giving back to the community. His contributions as coordinator, business manager, board member, and or chairman of cultural, civic, educational, and business organizations in Ohio, Texas, and Arizona. He was also a founder of the Abilene Black Chamber of Commerce. He actually founded a Chamber of Commerce in Abilene, Texas, because there wasn't one. Suffice to say, Stephen Boyd has done quite a bit, and I think he's just getting warmed up. So I think there's quite a bit more to come. So without further hesitation, I know, Stephen, you said to me once, you said that I came to Cleveland 45 years ago and I chose to come here. So let me tell you, how's that working out?
It's always, Cleveland is a beautiful town to me. It has afforded me an excellent quality of life, a whole host of friends and associates, a wonderful education for my children, excellent health care, and culture galore. There's plenty of Black culture right here in Cleveland, Ohio, because that's just one of the things about Cleveland, Ohio. It's a Black culture town. It's a Black history town. It's a Black power town. And it's going to be that whether folk like it or not, because that's the history.
That's what it is.
The movement of Carl Stokes as president as mayor of one of the nation's largest top 10 cities. I think Cleveland was number 9 then. Right. When he was elected. That caused, and that happened at the same time that Kwame Nkrumah became president of a free and independent Ghana. It caused us in Kansas City, Kansas to get a Black police chief. Stop them police from beating us over the head like they was beating us up.
Well, Vero worked on his campaign. Vero worked on his campaign when he was 12 years old.
Absolutely. That's historic. That is serious history. And it had ramifications. Well, seriously, it had ramifications all over Black America. So the only point I try to make first off is I'm here because I chose to live here, live anywhere I want to live in the world. My wife is from here. And when I first came here in 71, I thought, I told Robert, I said, for a lot of people in Kansas City, we didn't know nothing about no Paul Brown. We thought they named the Browns after Jim Brown, man. Everybody thought that team named after Jim Brown. Because he was the baddest brother in the world playing football.
Right.
And it's like I don't think we think enough about what the ramifications of any of that means. It caused Hatcher to become mayor of Newark and other things. And it's just been it's a Black intellectual leader. It's a Black medical leader. It's a Black social leader. This neighborhood centers organization that you have all around the city like that, all cities don't have anything functioning like that.
Something else I found out about Cleveland too. Cleveland was the first city with public housing.
Yes.
Because the industrialists wanted the poor people to have some decent housing. And Cleveland was the first Longview, is that Longview by 40th and Woodland? Was the first public housing in the country.
Was it Longwood or Longview?
Longwood, you're right, Longwood. Yeah, Longwood Estates. Yeah, it was the first public housing in the country. And Cleveland has, I think, been on the forefront of a lot of things, particularly.
My point is simply that whatever is going on here, we have to keep this in mind, Robert. Whatever is going on here, we have to think about it. It's going on for other Black communities the same way. They're experiencing gentrification the same way, lack of Black economics. It wasn't just the Tulsa Black Wall Street affair. Every Black economic center that we've had in any of the Black major cities have been decimated within that particular 30-year period of time. So the same thing's got to be going on. So only a united kind of action on our part is going to really make a difference at this point. I think we should see that by now, because governments, we're in this period of time where they're trying to make us believe that the two-party system is that's just the best we can do. When every other country in the world has 4 parties.
Has 12 parties, 10 and 12 parties.
12 parties, man. We around here with this two-party thing. You'll never get out of this hole.
Yeah, because the money people own both of them, you know. One works one side of the street, one works the other side. They say we'll be downtown.
It's 2 wings on the same bird, man.
Right.
Like, that's not going to get us what we need as striving entrepreneurs, people trying to raise our families, trying to grow and thrive. If we're going to grow and thrive, this is not. So I'm not saying, listen, it's become so evident. Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles can see that. So how it's going to come about, I don't know. I can't focus on that, because what we need to do, I think, is focus on business and our social engagement. But Robert said something on your show with Bibb that was very, very, very critical. And it has to do with the schools. Everything begins with the schools. It just does. It's just, if you do what you're supposed to be doing with education, it solves so many other problems in addition to ignorance. And it should, because it's right there to do it, and we're paying the money. So we can do better with our schools. We need schools teaching us practical information that we can use to live, giving us vocational skills, giving us tech skills, all of that. Theater companies could be coming right out of high school. I was in junior achievement when I was 15 years old.
I was too. I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, I was in junior achievement, man. And I was vice president in charge of marketing for the ADCO company. We made address markers for people on the street. And the salesman came back and couldn't get every house on the street. I said, why couldn't you? Everybody else did it. You supposed to sell that. We got to make money. But I was 15 years old. But I'm just saying, this is something for humor. We truly need enterprise going on, and people's dreams, people's skills, people's vocations, all those things can be turned to businesses.
We're going to have to design our own curriculums, though. You know, I think one of the first things, like you were saying, you know, we got to get together. We got to unify. I think another thing that's very important is, in terms of economics, you know, we control so much money, like $1 trillion, which is more than some whole countries. We got to stop putting the money in the banks of people that will not lend it to us.
Right. All those things. The problem is there's so many facets to this. We must move on many fronts at the same time. Multitasking is the kind of idea that in the tech world they use to describe the kind of thing we have to do now. We've got to move on so many different economic fronts at the same time. Nothing is more important on that front other than move on economics. Nothing outweighs anything. Yes, we absolutely have to have Black banks. You know, I think to a large extent, it's about making sure that we have looked at what Booker T. Washington told us to do, to what Marcus Garvey was doing, and not be scared to death when we think of it. Mm-hmm. If Marcus Garvey could amass 2-3 million Black people back in 1920 with no internet, no telephone, no Twitter, they knew to do that.
It's incredible what he did.
It wasn't coming to say we hate somebody. when the Chinese do their cultural dances down at Playhouse Square that involve intricate ideas relative to Chinese culture, etc., the statement there is not that we hate the rest of the world. It's about who we are.
Right.
All I'm saying we need to focus on is what we need to be doing for ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To me, it comes down to some simple thinking, man. And if you a roach going down the street, you a roach, and you run into the ants, and the ants and building the ant house over here, you can't go in there and talk to them about coming to spend the night because they're not gonna let you in. If you come near the ant house, they'll you up because we built this for ants, and nothing but ants is gonna stay in here. Now, but the roast comes back with, well, we all bugs, though. We all bugs, but they ain't trying to hear that. So if we can't understand the simplicity of that thought, we're not going to solve our problems, because we have to have that kind of intensity on building these neighborhoods we still have back, building economic engines within those neighborhoods, trading with the motherland, neighborhood to village, cut out the middleman. There's lots of things we can do. And we just have to decide, what is our vision? What do we want? And that's where we have to unify, not on our dollars, not on our spirituality, not on anything other than what's the vision that we want to see for our people. The universe can't help us unless we tell it specifically.
That's right. You know, one of the things we talk about a lot on the show is everybody knows the problems. You know, we always talk about the problems. And one of the things we try to do is kind of focus on solutions and propose solutions, because I think that's, that's fixing a problem and ensuring that it doesn't happen again. So Verl,
I think we can do it, Bob, right about now.
Oh yeah, we're doing it. Yeah.
Only radio shows that I know of, and I'm associated with. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, but I'm just saying, it's that we have to begin to talk about things that matter. And fortunately, there are several shows in the city that are trying to talk about things that matter. So let me get that really clear. I mean, they're doing a superb job. And this show, though, has its own approach and quality and niche, direction, vision, that it's going to serve that niche. And so you keep building. But we've got to have this kind of serious conversation right about now, because we're wasting time and resources.
That's what I say. If not now, when?
It's
and if not us, and if not us, who? Yes, sir.
We've had the election. We know who the mayor is going to be. We know who the congressperson is going to be.
You're the only person that had him on, Robert. You're the only black radio show that
had him on. How about that?
Maybe that'll get us some brownie points.
Get some brownie points for that.
Yeah.
Go ahead and run that show some more, but you need to put some captions up there or something.
Captions, yeah. But we have we've always had an open forum, and he when I reached out to him, I said, hey, we'd like to have you on the show. He said, just let me know when. He said, I'd love to do it. He said,
to build on that, because there's your answers.
Right? Oh, yeah. He said he'd come back too. Yeah.
He reminds me so much of myself back in those days. I used to be clean cut and corner rim glasses, shave, mustache, and all of that. Body 500 suit, Not anymore, brother, because it's just a brand new day. I don't have to do that anymore. So
right.
So Verl, let me bring you in
this show, right? We've got on this show right now exactly what we need, and that's not to exclude Mike, because Mike, we have to have Mike. We have to have this crew. I'm not saying I need to be on the show either. I'm not trying to say that. I'm just saying that I'll be a guest whenever y'all want, and
that'd be good, yeah.
But you're talking about the matters that are important now, and we're in a crisis situation. We need wholesale economic development. We have to put in place ways to help our small businesses get the kind of counseling and financing that they need to get. The mayor may be interested in that sort of thing from some perspective, it seems like. Actually funding out of the mayor's office certain things. Now, that's not that has to be done. But, back when I was a planning director for a city, and a building code enforcement officer for a city. They also made me the planning director for the city. That happened, so that's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, that's a great job.
It took me in a lot of areas real quickly, and we had to solve problems because the city was redlined. It was
one thing I found,
any kind of insurance.
Yeah, I was all on a planning commission in Shaker Heights for about 8 years.
I heard you mention that.
And one of the things that I always found very interesting is that when you go to a planning commission meeting, somebody wants to do something or build something or change something, and you look at it, you read the packet, you drive out there, you talk to a few people, and you say, oh yeah, this is easy. And then when you actually go to the meeting and one person comes in and they present this perspective and somebody else presents that perspective, and a lot of times it'll change your mind when you start asking questions and you see it from different perspectives, So I think a lot of times, particularly with the place Cleveland is in now. I know, Verl, we talked about this before. Say, okay, we got the mayor, we got the congressman. What next? So, Verl, what's the next step?
Well,
who do we need to have on the show and hold feet to the fire, man? What's the next step?
No, I think this is a really good starting point with the new mayor, and then having Stephen, who's done a lot of things like that, community development type things. But I go back to Carl Stokes' era. That when the Carl Stokes era was around, it was so much energy and excitement that all the kids wanted to join in. The old people, everybody wanted to get behind this guy. But it was such a different time.
Yeah.
We didn't have crack and fentanyl, all these different things. But we had James Brown and his music, it moved us. We had a hero to look up to like Muhammad Ali. And it looked like we were about to take over and just explode, But over time, I saw things, get whittled down. The music was changing and the ideas were changing. The movies, I was, Stephen, do you remember a guy at community college, Wilbert Nichols?
I've heard that name before.
Yeah, he was a black history and culture professor down there. But he sometimes
I did know. I knew George Jolly. George Jolly and I were great friends, traveled all over the world.
Okay.
I'm sure he mentioned him once or twice.
Oh yeah, definitely. One of the things I remember, we were talking about movies and how in 1971 the movie Superfly put Negroes back to sleep. All of a sudden they didn't want to be militant, in the camouflage and the Tams and fist raised and all this, and the blacks they wanted to look fly. They wanted to get their hair done and dressed up in the Cadillacs and the women, the money, the drugs, and all this stuff. So media, it had a great effect on us. People don't realize it. Even I remember myself when we were young, I used to like movies like The Man from U.N.C.L.E., James Bond, and all that. And James Bond, I remember they were selling the little attaché cases with the little rifle and the scope when Goldfinger came out, because he had one. We had a little motorized car and all that. So movies had a great effect. And this movie, Superfly, it totally put black people back to sleep. But what was interesting about that time, there was another movie, and Superfly was kind of a revolutionary movie in that he was trying to get out of this system, fight back in his way. But there were two other movies. One was The Spook Who Sat by the Door, Sam Greenlee's movie,
I remember that.
That was a revolutionary movie. And also Sweet Sweetback, Melvin Van Peebles' movie. It was one individual's rebellion against the system. So you had the individual there, you had the guy like Superfly who was caught up in it, and then you had The Spook Who Sat by the Door who's going to try to take his thing, broaden it, and hope and catch on nationwide.
But one
thing, that was a revolutionary mindset we had then, and everybody's interested in voting. But now, this city, Cleveland, which was such a leader and on fire back in the day, Robert, what percentage of voters do you have, registered voters now?
In Ward 4, 17% voted.
That means 83% of the people thought, what's the point?
What that means is that with 9%, with 1 out of every 10 people, you could get elected. You could take 1 out of every 10 voters to the poll.
But you know what, Robert, what's so interesting? So many other people do not think, they become so apathetic. They say, like, what's the point, But while this is happening, we need to really do local elections, because if we don't do local elections, we don't determine who the judges are and who these other people are. And how some of these, who's going to manage the money on some of these big contracts.
Mhm.
So we got to get
I'm going to hold real firm to the idea that in order for us to do any of those things that you all are discussing right now, it is serious that we go through a very serious paradigm shift.
Yes.
With the way we're thinking about where we are and what the heck is going on. Because if we don't do that, I was telling Robert about a little joke from I got once from an accountant. She said to me one time, if you find yourself in a hole, what's the first thing you ought to do?
Robert?
I already know
the answer. We already.
Oh, you know the answer.
He knows the
well,
answer.
That's a good thing. I think if I found myself in a hole,
the first thing you got to do?
I would you got to look around and try to assess your situation.
That's so close, but it's not quite it.
If the hole is deep enough, I'm praying.
Let me help you, because you're so close, brother. You're so close.
If you're going to deal with a problem, you got to
far away. Well, let me tell you, here it is. If you find yourself in a hole, the very first thing you have to do is stop digging.
Stop digging.
Right.
Any of them other things you're talking about, you can do them first. But we never stop digging. We just don't stop. We said every little thing we do.
See that
further.
That answer kind of shows you what the problem is. We're creating a hole. We're putting ourselves in our situation.
We had a hole that we
which made responsibility. Right.
Right.
So
and I think a lot of
but it's like, one thing Malcolm said, he said the way we are is we like somebody that goes to the dentist. And when you go to the dentist, you're laying up in the dentist's office and he just shot your mouth full of that Novocaine. So you sitting there grinning, and then he's in your mouth pulling and blood running all down your jaw, and you just grinning because you feel with that Novocaine. We don't realize how bad off we are because we just seem to have a little something we call cash flow. So y'all are talking about crypto and other things. I mean, seriously, we need economic development on a gigantic scale.
Yeah, because
all I'm saying is if we can get a new mindset. Now you might not see things and I'm saying all of us need to kind of look at our worldview because we got to shift. We're at the end of an age. We're very much in the age similar to 1891 or 2 or something like that. Certainly 1905. They all around the planet, there was a buzz about this newfangled thing called the horseless carriage. And so the horseless carriage, all the horse traders went, we ain't gonna have no horses no more. I don't need saddles. I don't need no spurs. Hay, we don't need hay. No. The horseless carriage doesn't need that. The horseless carriage needs oil and gas. That changed that age.
And the Industrial Revolution,
It's just, we have got to stop using coal and gas and oil. We got to go to solar, wind, and other renewable energies now. Shift the whole world. That's one major thing we have to do. They keep acting like the Green New Deal is some sort of subversive communist plot. It's no more communist than Social Security is.
Right, exactly.
Okay. So we need to get busy because the grid and all of that. That's a major thing. But I'm just saying we don't have a vision for our people. I'm not talking about I'm through talking about. I'd like to say the ants is not worried about what the hell the roaches do out here.
Right.
Ants is taking care of the anthill, and our anthill is messed up. All of our neighborhoods are disjointed. We have to build enterprise and social development outside of any of these other systems. And I'm not saying don't get anything from those systems, but I'm saying we really have to get a vision for what we want to see our community be and get united around it.
Well, I think a lot of it, and Vero, you always talk about education. All these things that we're talking about, you have to change the paradigm. You have to change your mindset. And we often talk about. I know when I was coming up, I went to school, and then on evening and on the weekend, sometime I would go study Black history at the school called the Moorish American Institute, which taught me, a lot of things. And sometimes we would do math there too. He would teach us, if we were having trouble in math, we would work on math. So it was a place where we went to study and to learn. And what made me want to go was because I had I was elementary school, I was going to Shaker, and I had a lot of Jewish kids in our class. And after school, they would go to another school. And then on Saturday, they would go to another school. And then when we do book reports, I'd have a book report, somebody have one of 10 or 15 pages and they get a C. I'd have 25 or 30 pages and I'd get a B plus. And they'd have book reports that would be 70, 80 pages. And I'm talking about in 5th and 6th grade. So
that was crazy.
I know, it was crazy. But
let me ask you this. What percentage do you think Black American children your age at that time got to have that kind of Black educational experience, exactly as you described it, or similar?
Well, probably not a lot of them, but there were a few because, my parents, one thing my parents did was they exposed me to all different types of education, all different types of educational opportunities. My father used to take me to the mosque sometimes. There was a mosque. We lived on 125th Superior. He used to take me to the mosque. He said, because, there's some things, you should learn. My mother would take me to the Phyllis Wheatley Association or Karamu, where I would, I'd study acting. We'd sing, we'd dance, we'd do pottery, so she was really into the arts, and I think there were always a lot of books around. I was fortunate enough that even at the Moorish American Institute, and my friends' parents would give us books. I remember this one guy, my friend Al Maples, his dad, we used to call him Pal. He would give you books to read. He'd say, read this book, Frantz Fanon, The Wretched of the Earth. And he'd ask you questions about it. It's like, what is this, a quiz? He said, yeah, it's a quiz, man. He said, read this, and a couple months later, he would start quizzing you about the book. If you hadn't read it, he'd look at you and said, man, I'm really disappointed in you. I thought you were different. And you feel about 2 inches high and you go read the book.
What's the other co-host name of the show, Robert? What's his name? The brother?
Mike Shomo. Yeah.
Mike was pointing out that same thing, how with the barbers back in the day, where certain barbershops you went and you got information that you didn't get right in any other way, or the barbershop was a great source.
Right. Yeah.
We certainly had plenty of that in my family. The oldest Black barbershop in Kansas City, Kansas, in my family. So.
Well, you got educated at the barbershop. I remember when I came up, there was a barbershop on Kinsman called Mod House of Styles. The barbershop, had a pinball machine. You could go play pinball, and you could listen to there were doctors, physicians, and surgeons that came in there. And there was pimps and dope men that came in there.
Right.
So we did the pinball machine.
Just straight up hoodlums came in there.
And straight up hoodlums.
Yeah.
And some educators. Right. What's her name? Niketa. She would come up there and bring books for people.
Oh yeah. Niketa Junkins.
Niketa Junkins. She would bring books on Black history and give them away for free. So we was playing a pinball machine. You get this education that I don't even think kids get now. I mean, you learn
all of that back in another way.
You listen to the pimps. You listen to them say, "A man knows such thing as an old player." You time for you to go to school, and you listen to the physicians and the teachers saying the education was the way, and then you'd have a businessman come in, and you'd have Don King, a numbers man, come in and give everybody $50 so he could go in front of them, So you had this whole mix of different types of education.
We won't get it back the same way.
Which I don't think,
but we can get something similar. It has to be kind of like that. It really does. It doesn't have to be exactly that. But our children have lost the respect that they should have for eldership. See, there was a respect that used to be had for eldership that we have completely lost. We've gotten too loose on it. It's gotten looser and looser, and now it's out of hand. And the problem is, the young people can't make a correlation behind what being an elder even means. They don't see you owning nothing. You don't control anything that they need to respect. So it's why should they regard eldership? Hell, if it's there, all this got to be done, we got to do it. But y'all ain't done nothing. And
well,
so
you know, I think a lot of it.
the 60s to the 70s, unless you were there, you don't understand what all has happened. And so the question is, what are we going to do now, though? What are we going to do now? When you're in the hole, you stop.
You know,
where are you going to go? So we can go anywhere but where we at.
Well, you know, this is the thing. As you said, and I totally agree, we definitely need a major paradigm shift. But the thing is, we've had enough examples of how to do this thing. You know, we don't have Garvey anymore, but his ideas are still out there, philosophies and principles, you know.
Right.
We don't have
bored too quick, Merle. We get bored too quick and we don't see it happening and fast enough, we quit.
No, but see, this is the thing.
We quit.
But Stephen, this is the thing. We can connect the dots. We got enough good people, put them together in a room. I mean, like I said, we don't have Garvey, but we got Dr. Claude Anderson, and he has his Powernomics program. You know,
I brought him to Cleveland, Merle. Yes, I did.
That's beautiful. I brought the book and I listened to him, and
I've known Claude for many years. You know.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Gil Scott Heron, somebody I used to cuss out. Because when you call my office, you can't tell me how to run my office. I don't give a damn who you are.
I bought, as long as we talking, I bought The Last Poets in Michigan State.
Did you? That's right. You told me that. You did.
And you know how controversial that was. I bought The Last Poets in Michigan State. Yeah. So
we have to think deeply today.
But you know what? Look at Elijah Muhammad too. First thing he did, first thing we got to understand, we're being poisoned in our food, our water, the air. And the information we're taking in, everything is poison. I mean, what these kids are listening to, what they imagine. I remember one time my nephew he had a baby when he was young, and one time the baby was sleeping and he got a radio next to the baby's ear blasting the most foul rap music, and I said, I won't mention my nephew's name. I said, nephew, what can he turn out to be like with that being pumped into his ear? He turned it off, you know.
Same thing, your nephew.
Without the loftiness
of
without the loftiness of Islamic and Moorish thought, how can we would have committed genocide many years ago. We've gotten the most powerful spiritual messages from all of our religious visions. The problem is we don't live them. We talk about them. They all are varied. The Christian will say that they had vacation Bible school, or they had Wednesday Bible class, or whatever, and it did whatever. We have not taken education seriously from an ethnic standpoint. I don't know who's calling me. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Yeah.
You know,
you're right. I think a lot of it.
We got some hard ground to cover here, because
we do.
This is big time stuff that we need to address if we're going to see change, or we're going to still be talking about this 100 years from now.
No, we've talked about it long enough. It's about trying to build this nation, you know.
It is. It truly is, and we need to build on the wisdom that we know of, and just pull in and circle the wagons. And let's talk turkey, man, and get things done.
We got to change our diet.
Going on in Cleveland is going on in Nairobi. It's
well, you know what?
In Gary, it's going on in Kansas City.
You know, I heard a brother one time say Cleveland's like the navel of the planet. You know, it's the center. And I so much good energy here.
Bro.
We got to make Cleveland this model city. You remember? We got to make it. All we got to do is create one. We don't forget about everything in the world at this moment. But the first one, and then we can get the next one. Akron, Columbus, Cincinnati.
I think the challenge is one of the big challenges. One of the things that we wanted to do. Verl and I talked about doing a show, and Mike, we said, we want to hold people accountable, our elected officials, and we want to educate people. And I think we've done a lot of things in terms of educating people. For instance, we had the three physicians on
I'll be right
about the
back.
vaccine. We've had Dr. Shomo on several times regarding the vaccine.
I'm on a Zoom radio TV show right now.
And I think, one of the biggest things that we have to do is you have to educate people, man. It's just like, we talked about finance, man, about one of the biggest needs we have right now is to educate people on finance.
No,
This whole thing with the cryptocurrency that's going on, we have to educate people.
But I think we need to have it in stages. Some people are not ready for crypto. Some people just need really basic how to pay my bills, invest in real estate, things like that they can see and understand. And for some of the younger ones who are more advanced, they see the benefit in getting into crypto and things like that.
Right.
But we know that community independence cannot be achieved without an economic base. We got to have
it. The reason I mentioned, crypto and decentralized finance is because this is what's coming. This is what's here now. And this is what's on the way. This is what's coming. And so, it's important for people to be to understand economics, to understand the economy. We've done probably as many shows on capitalism as we've done on anything, because that's the predominant, economic system that the world operates under right now. And a lot of the problems that we have are as a result of the system being rigged, and it's been that way for a long time. But I think, with decentralized finance, there's so much for people to learn because the way of doing business is changing. It's already changing. In Africa, the number one currency right now in Nigeria for doing business is Bitcoin. Ethiopia just made Cardano, which is another cryptocurrency, the currency for the whole country of Ethiopia. Because the difference between cryptocurrency and decentralized finance is you don't have a central bank that controls everything. And anybody with a cell phone can have a bank account. 42% of people in this country don't have bank accounts. No, 62, I'm sorry. 62% of people in this country don't have bank accounts. And in other parts of the world, it's up to 80 or 90%. In India, it's 90%. But they can do business with a cell phone through decentralized finance.
It is truly one of those things that we have to do today.
Yeah, and we have to learn it. We have to teach people.
To me, the stuff we got to do is kind of like, well, we'll always obey the yield signs, but we may not stop at the stop sign. We'll go through some of them. When we're in this traffic that we're in here now, we really got to take advantage of a lot of things at once.
Right.
I know I've had a crypto thing going on for a few years now. But I also know that the arts are critical. Our spirituality is critical right now. But we had an economic movement, and this is one of the other things that Garvey did for the rest. Because if we try to move purely from the economic standpoint, it's not gonna. There's no evidence that it really ever catches all of our people any more than a purely religious stance.
And I said to a guy once,
really satisfied and understood what it feels like to look in the mirror and see who we are and feel great and tremendous pride and a need for deep bonding, and then go out and do whatever business it is we do. It's just going to be so because that's all it's been. I mean, if we're going to have a paradigm shift, it's about that. And so money's important, the arts are important, actual industry is important, trade of all sorts right now.
Knowing who you're, knowing your culture, knowing who you are.
Yes, knowing your culture. That's
knowing who you are, what you come from.
Spirituality, history,
We have been spelled. We have been hypnotized. Our minds have been messed with for us to not look at this stuff with as much seriousness. It's the adjusting force that we need to use to get there. Our ancestors used art and music to bring the rain before the Indians did, so-called. And we're the original people. All has come from us. We've migrated to this place. We've done all sorts of things to get here. But we use art to heal. Certain sounds make our psyche and our bodies react in certain ways. We've always
exactly.
That's what we use it for. But this is a perverted something that we're allowing to continue to hear because we think it sounds good, and it's killing us. It's hypnotizing us into to tomfoolery.
Mm-hmm. But see,
yes,
I think one of the biggest tragedies of capitalism is that it makes people sell their soul for money.
And so little money.
For chump
so
change.
Little money.
Like James Brown said, sold me out for chicken change, you know.
Yeah. Yes, you did.
Sell their soul for a few, you know, for a few
chicken
pennies,
change.
For 2 biscuits and some extra gravy.
Yeah, you know, and it's gotten to the point where it's really
we got to stop it. We can't do it.
It wasn't so absurd, it would be comical, you know, but people
it's not comical.
Would do anything, you know, for money I mean, it's absurd when you think what people will make you go through to work at a fast food restaurant and make $10, $11 an hour.
If we don't change this,
and you see, you have to get out of that position.
It won't get changed.
It won't get changed. That's right.
Because the gatekeepers, they have no incentive to change it.
Here's what'll change it. Here's what could change it. Our own enterprise. It was Rudy Tomjanovich that said, never underestimate the heart of a champion. If something can be woke up in us so that we can tap on to something. I know that sounds hooky spooky and okey pokey.
No, you're absolutely right.
If there's anybody that deserves a spiritual mental lift, it's us.
Yeah.
They don't want to pay you reparations. Every way you turn, the system is not going to accommodate you for your best living. All brothers know when we leave our house today, and it doesn't matter if you've had a law enforcement experience. If them lights came on behind you while you driving, your heart is not going to feel that everything's all right. It isn't. You got to deal with the stress of that to some extent. And if that's all you had to deal with. So we are not at a place where we can feel that we can just do anything we want. And we need to get there. We're the only people that can take us there by going to take our rights, man. Look, we got to build. We got to build it through our families, gentlemen.
Well, you know, we got to
build it through our families.
Exactly. Family that's the first thing. You know, that's what we got to start.
We not allow these people to take us and allow our families to be diluted.
Well, you see, like when welfare,
family is our DNA. It's our African spiritual power. Our African spiritual power comes through our lineages.
Stephen, and look at what they have done to bring up the families. You know, like when welfare came in, the father got to go.
Stop him. Yeah, we got to stop it.
Yeah, we got to make some new rules, though. You know.
Yeah, we do.
Because you know what, and that's why voting is important too. Because you know, when the Europeans came over here, when they started bringing all those folks in, they didn't make them families separate. They gave them money and what they had to. They trained them, everything. You know.
Power conceives nothing.
I think it's your mind.
Power conceives nothing without a demand. It never did. It never.
Right.
That's
exactly. Yes.
And it's just the truth. It doesn't concede anything. If we're not going to make a credible argument that says we demand this, we demand that, and then build on that, we don't do that. Yeah. We just take whatever is left. And then we have to. You know what the last poet said? You said you brought the last poets, Robert. Them last poets, them brothers said, "Don't you give me no broccoli and tell me it's greens."
Yeah, you gotta. You have to do for self.
Yes.
And you have to. You know, I tell you a real quick story before we run out of time. But I had an artist I used to work with in D.C. She was Nigerian, and she worked at some clothing store, Guess or something, you know, and she was making like $8, $9 an hour. Maybe this was 10 years ago. She's making $8, $9 an hour. And her mother was completely convinced that she had lost her mind. And she said, you work for $8 an hour. She said, you drive 25 miles. He said, you spend $3 an hour in gas, and then you eat. She says, by the time you get finished, She says, you're working for $2 an hour.
Mhm.
She said, that is completely ridiculous.
Yes.
She said, here's $100. I want you and your sister to go buy some makeup. And I want you to go out to Tyson Mall and I want you to do people's makeup for $5 a piece.
Mhm. Mhm.
They did that. By the end of the summer, they had each saved over $1,200 a piece.
See, that's it.
Right.
They were
So,
high school,
I mean, the
but she
simplest
said,
thing solve problems,
she
man.
said, I know I raised kids that are smarter than that. She said, you don't ever work for anyone when you can work for yourself.
Listen,
Right.
I'm the kind of kid that when I was growing up, I controlled my neighborhood. Okay, I cut all the grass, the majority of it. I did all the flower beds. I shoveled the snow. I raked the leaves. I painted the houses outside and in. Because I knew that could give me continual income.
Mm-hmm.
And I just was I came from a family of some entrepreneurs. My uncle had some corner stores.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a little small. In fact, he had owned a pretty busy corner. You heard the song Kansas City going 12th Street and Vine. The guys from Crazy Little Women there now. So that song there, right around 12th Street and Vine on Paseo was my uncle owned that corner lot, that corner store rather, and it was really a small grocery store. It wasn't a convenience store. It was a small grocery store. Then he had a little laundry. Then he had a restaurant, my aunt's restaurant, Vivian's restaurant, and upstairs that was the hotel. So when Nat King Cole was playing up there, or Diana Ross, that's where they stayed because they couldn't stay down at the big hotel downtown.
Mm-hmm.
So they stayed at that hotel. So and when we owned our own then, and
I think
a different mind, yeah.
I heard two guys talking. We were having a conversation. We were all in a conversation. And one guy said, well, if you took all the money and you divided up all equally, so everybody could have an income of $150,000 a year. And the other guy said, but there's only one thing wrong with that. He said, what's that? He said, because after about 3 years, we'd have it all back again. He said, the same guys
Exactly.
got it all back again. He said,
we
because the same people that buy weed, the same people that throw it away on weed would throw it away on weed. The same people that would buy liquor would buy liquor.
But we got to
force people that save money would save money. So he said the thing wrong with that, he said in three years, the same people had the money all back again. So it's a mindset. That's what his point. His point was that it's a mindset.
We're gonna have to. Our art can snap that. Our art, the right art, coming with regularity, the right kind of artistic television productions, radio productions, music productions, cultural changes. If we're the ones directing that, we can't just allow things to go as they've gone. But we're never going to change up our mindsets because this stuff is hypnotizing us to madness.
Well, I think it's because people don't get educated. And, somebody told me, it says, well, and I remember back in the late 60s, early 70s, there was a consciousness movement, a Black Power movement. Right. You had a lot of Black brothers coming back from Vietnam who had been trained militarily. Right. And things were getting a little militant, And it's funny, because I went to school at Michigan State, and I was away from Cleveland for 3 or 4 years. And it's funny because when I came back to Cleveland, all the guys that were militants when I left, now they were into drugs. Now they were either getting high or they were selling drugs. So drugs came in to the community. But I don't think you can blame what happened on drugs, because I think drugs, just like with crack,
always there's multi ingredients that are working. I don't give anything any higher credence. Drugs was a major thing.
It was a major thing, right?
But I think we use.
Yeah, but I think drugs is a conscious effort. I don't think anybody ever put a gun to somebody's head and said, hey, you got to smoke crack, or you got to use this, or you got to do that.
That's not how it's done.
You know what I'm saying? So I think that was a contributing factor. But I know a lot of people say, well, the heroin did it before, and now they bring the crack back in. but I think that's a personal choice.
Robert, you're missing the, Robert, hey, Stephen, Robert and I always get into this argument. Robert's father was a principal.
Yeah, I'm trying to help you out.
His mother was a school teacher.
Doesn't matter, Verl.
But I'm saying, when both parents aren't there, when there's little economics, maybe the mom's got to work 2 jobs, the kids are raising themselves, and they create an environment with every negative thing you have, and you don't have these other positive forces, your parents and your community and your village to pull you back in, you get caught up in it. That's why so many people are caught up in it. We don't make any worse decisions than any other group.
But you know what?
I'll give an example.
We got to get back. We got to get back to basics.
I'll give an example. I've had in my family, I've had Nigerians married into my family, and one thing I never heard anybody from the Igbo cultural group from Nigeria. One thing I never heard them do is make excuses.
Yeah,
Robert, they come out of a culture. Robert, they come out of Africa.
Make excuses.
Robert, hold it. They bring Africa with them. It is in their soul.
We can get it back. No, it's in ours too. It's in ours too.
It is.
It's in ours too.
But Stephen, we've been beat down for 400 years.
We can overcome it. We're gonna we done found out.
We will overcome it.
No. We done found out some keys so we can get over this quick. And let's get busy. Because we need that African power right about now, brother.
I'm asking you.
We don't have time to wait on
check this out.
incremental change. We need to change up.
Barack Obama.
I understand. I agree.
Did Barack Obama come from a stable family background?
Well, I'll tell you what I do know about Barack Obama. That's that his father.
He was pretty successful.
Barack Obama. Well, I'm saying his father, Barack Obama Sr. You talking about Barack Obama Jr. I'm talking about Barack Obama Sr.
Okay.
That's who I've been talking to over the last few years. And I'm in business with them because that's a part of those are the Lua people. That's their tribal group, the Lua. Okay. And they have 2 famous Lua. One is Nikita Napita, I think it is, Lumunga, something like that. The sister that was in Black Panther. You know, you had Chadwick Boseman and then the dark sister and then the other sister.
Lupita Nyong'o.
There it is.
Oh, yeah.
She's a Lua and Barack Obama Sr. Okay. So, you know, the thing of it is that we have every right to look and learn whatever we can look and learn.
That's right.
And when we look and learn something, then whatever that does for you, whose business is it? That's your business that you've learned something, and that helps restore some of this that we say has been so lost. If we think it's lost, because what you said was true, Robert. The Igbo, you said the Igbo Nigerians, the Igbo Nigerians that don't make excuses, and so there's something about
they don't make excuses.
The worldview that they have. And you are entitled to have whatever aspect of that you like. I don't give a damn what these people have done. We need to stop giving energy to what the white man has done. I hate to say it like that, but it's the truth.
Yeah,
right.
They act like that man's juju or his voodoo is just so powerful. We can't overcome it.
I didn't say that.
Yeah.
Well,
I know you're not saying that, but I'm saying can't get that stuff no energy no more. We need.
I understand, but I want to understand how we arrived in this thing. You know, it said those who don't remember the past are bound to repeat it. So I just want to understand.
We're gonna teach it. We're gonna teach it. Robert, we need to talk about it.
And Robert, to what you were talking about Obama, I remember one time you were talking about. You said how he turned out. His mother used to wake him up at 4 in.the.morning. To go over words and English and different things. Yeah. Now, how many kids get that? You know, it's like, you know.
Well,
parenting is a very serious. It's a very serious enterprise. When I was the chair, the president of the National Black Child Development Institute Cleveland affiliate, one of the things we and Congresswoman C.J. Prentice and others put in place was a parenting education program.
Right.
So we taught people how to be a parent. What are the kind of things you need to be doing? And people like Marquita Hill and Paul Hill, that's what we're talking about.
Right.
Passage.
Right to passage thing. Yeah.
I mean,
that's a big thing.
That's a given with me. We spent 40 years with this.
That's important. That was like our bar.
What we had going on in Cleveland was we had the Cleveland Public School District We used to have thousands of children out in the courtyard at Tri-C going through initiation into rites of passage type programs.
That was like our bar mitzvah when we did that.
They cut out vocational education. They cut out this. This wasn't teaching them how to be Afro set. This was teaching them the vital skills that you need to be able to deal with the passages of life. And it was cut out because there was no demand that said, we have to have this no matter what. And like Bob said, like Robert said, these people are having their own educational programs going on for their children.
And we could do the same thing. Yeah, we should.
And they do it on their own. They're digging in their own pocket. You know, we've got to figure out.
We got to do that.
To be responsible for this. And several things have come along. I was a part of something called the Mai Tai Network. Did you ever hear about Mai Tai?
Yeah.
You say Mai?
Mai Tai.
Oh, Mai Tai.
Mai Tai movement. This was in the 90s.
Oh,
Okay. See, that was something that came out. People like to say nothing came out of the Million Man March. That's not true. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. There's plenty of things that came out of it. And people don't know because they're sitting around waiting on Phil Donahue or Oprah or The View to sit around and tell you what happened.
Right.
They're not going to ever tell you what happened.
Right.
We have to tell.
I think you know, one of the
building on that.
Yeah. To you know,
I don't know if that's radical or crazy. It's just that, man, it's
no, you're right.
We're in trouble. We are really in trouble. And I can't afford to say I'm not good. I don't have a God complex, but I'm telling you, how many more of our children? We can't stop all of it, but there's some real stuff. How come 91-year-old women can't live in peace in Cleveland? What happened there? I mean, I know
a lot of it. You know, a lot of it.
There was a disconnect. You know,
it's gonna happen. But my goodness, what are we doing?
We got to create that wake up message again. Go ahead, Robert.
I'm creating art, brother. I'm answering my question for what we need. And in a minute, you've seen my son. You're about to see dad in a minute. You're gonna see dad and mom, and we're gonna come with it.
Yeah.
With the kind of
you know, I think a lot of it is related to drug activity.
It is.
See, drug activity in a lot of countries. I mean, drug activity, like they don't have a drug problem in Thailand. A lot of African countries don't have drug problems because the community doesn't tolerate it.
Well, you know what? If you're caught selling drugs,
they don't tolerate you being a problem with it. That's what they don't tolerate. They don't tolerate you being a problem.
Yeah,
right. They'll chop your head off in some of them countries, you know, right away.
What do you think happened if you got caught selling crack in China?
Is it?
Crack is a drug.
That's what I'm saying. They don't tolerate it. So I think in the community, we tolerate a lot of things that we shouldn't tolerate.
That's right. We really do.
I mean, but
why can't a 91-year-old woman live in peace in Cleveland? Because we tolerate a lot of things that could be all these shootings and stuff. That stuff, if people really wanted to, that could stop Monday morning.
The amount of
it doesn't happen in Murray Hill, does it?
Inordinate.
It's not going to happen in Murray. It's not going to happen in West Park.
Right.
Because they're not going to tolerate it.
It's not going to happen in my neighborhood where I'm in. Yeah. You know, it has to be a vision that people want, one of those standards. And we've been taught to lower our standards or feel where we can.
Right.
Yeah.
But the most important things and most valuable things and the most powerful things in life don't cost a dime.
Nope.
And when we change our mind, we can change our circumstance. I don't have no miracles here, but it's one step at a time. Shit, you don't get to 5:30 and it's 5 o'clock right now in 2 minutes. You got to do 5:01 before you get to 5:30. You got to do 5:01, 5:02. Take the steps and keep it moving.
That's
keep
right.
moving. Address.
Somebody
realize that you at 5 o'clock and act like it and move on to 5:01, and we can solve these problems.
That's right. Someone sent me a post that I reposted as a post of a horse. You know,
I love it, Robert.
1,500-pound horse, and he's got this little strap that goes from his snout and is wrapped around this post.
No, a plastic chair.
I saw the one here, the plastic chair.
A plastic chair.
Plastic chair.
A cheap-ass plastic chair.
It says sometimes the things that bind us are more mental than physical.
That's
And that
right.
is so true.
Always.
It's so
That
true.
is so true, you know?
That describes our circumstance, Robert, better than any other picture I've seen. We can snap our neck, man, and solve these problems.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Got to come together to do it. Yeah, that's what's got to happen.
We got to come together and just do that, and it'd be a brand new day. That's all we really got to do.
Right.
We're starting here right now, so we got to keep it moving.
Brother. We are.
Well, Stephen, we want to thank you. We've gone over a little bit.
Thank you, brother.
It's not unusual for us, but that happens sometimes. And Verl,
my wife will say, "Nah, you finally found somebody to sit around and talk with you about all this stuff. We can't take it no more."
Well, you know what? We Verl and I have spirited conversations, and I think that's good because I'll get emails and half the people agree with Verl and half agree with me. I'll get an email tomorrow and says, "Yeah, you should start listening to Verl," and then somebody else will say, "You know, I don't know what he's talking about." You know, but I think
I don't know what happened. But what about Mike now?
Yeah. But I think
they don't mess with Mike. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
No. But see, you know, it's good to speak your truth.
It is.
And I think it's good.
Time now.
Everybody doesn't agree on everything.
We can't.
And it's important to have discourse and to talk through things. Because like, you know, being on the planning commission, a lot of times you'll go and you'll say, well, this fence should be cut down. And then maybe after you hear, you know, the testimony, you say, well, maybe the fence should be a little higher, you know. So I think it's good to keep an open mind and to have this discourse because that's something that's missing. That's something that's missing now. Now everybody is like, oh, well, you voted for Trump, I hate you. You voted for Hillary, don't speak to me anymore, you know. And everybody's kind of like gone to these corners and there's no more discourse. And I think, you know, there's a really an opportunity here and a need for discourse to discuss things, because a lot of times, like I say, you know, you will go in feeling one way and then eventually you hear a few things and you may change your mind and you may figure out a better way of doing things. So
yeah, we should all be able to sit down at the same table, you know.
Yeah. I have rolled the dice on Cleveland. I didn't bet on Cleveland that Cleveland's gonna win. I bet on it because this town and its heart and its head is a progressive place.
Oh yeah,
it's a progressive place, and there are thinkers here. Mm-hmm. There are people that are getting it done, and they're doing things, and so we'll come together. It's like somebody else said, just solve the problems right here in Cleveland. Because I'm telling you, you do not realize the power of what Carl Stokes becoming the first Black mayor of American City meant to this country. It said something. And when I look at the other things I've seen go on here and think about all the people that I've met, I've really met so many and worked with so many of our movers and shakers, though almost everywhere we've been. So the way I look at that sort of thing is that I didn't do that so I can walk around talking about I know everybody under the sun. I know who I know so we can get something done.
That's right.
I'm gonna get something done.
Yeah,
At the end of the day, if we didn't get anything done, what good was it?
Well, we got
a little something, you know.
Yeah, we got
let's be ethical with each other. Let's be solid with each other. Let's be progressive, intelligent with each other. If we ever will do that, we can solve our problems. This man ain't done nothing we can't overcome. Some of us done overcome it. So let's move on.
Yeah. Okay. Well, again, you know, unfortunately our time is up, but we thank you for yours. Stephen, it's always a pleasure. You're welcome.
My honor, sir. My honor, sir.
You're welcome to come. I think you bring a little. You always bring something to the table. You bring something to the conversation, and I think that's what we need is somebody who's had experience, who's done a lot, and who's not afraid to speak truth to Verl, you know, because he don't like to hear my truth, but maybe he'll listen to it.
Now, what you did,
there you go. Robert, you gotta have somebody to
y'all get ready. Now you need somebody who's standing when y'all get ready to throw me off the show. See, we know when we throw him off because we tired of it.
No, Stephen, we loved your energy and your insights and the observations you bring, and I can tell you've been in the struggle a long time, and you're going to be in it for a long time because we're in it to win it. So let's all just work together and keep it moving. You know, love to have you back on here too.
Oh yeah, for sure. He'll be back on it.
This hour went really fast, yeah.
And I would ask you, if you don't follow us, please follow us. Let's Talk Radio on YouTube. Subscribe, like us. We have over 100 shows. We cover a lot of different subjects and probably something that you'd be interested in. So it's Let's Talk Radio. It's on YouTube. And follow us, subscribe, and we'll see you next week. Same place, same time, same station, as they used to say. So have a good evening.
All right. Take care.
Take care.